This story begins with the raiders. They are the people who hunt monsters, obtain treasures and protect humanity. With that said, these raiders are basically glorified celebrities, as being a successful raider means they'll also become subjects of envy. Inside a cafe, we are introduced to our protagonist, Min Jae-hyun, age 27. He was conversing with another guy, Young Wooman, who works for the raider agency, who gave him an offer to join a raid. Jae-hyun was reluctant to accept, seeing as he wants him to stand in front as a meat shield, with undead monsters as their enemies. He then asked why this is the only available job for him, when raiders lower rank than him are getting more jobs. Wooman replied, saying that he already knows why, seeing as he's a martial artist and employers would rather hire mages, as not only are they more efficient, they also have lower risks of being injured. He was bummed out, as he reflects on his poor life choices. 11 years ago, on his third year of high school, he received good results from the Awakened Aptitude evaluation, and then, he also chose to enter Millis Academy, which specializes in nurturing future raiders. To top it off, his aptitude for magic is a whopping 97%. In perspective, even one of the top mages, So Inna, only had an aptitude of 92%. On the other hand, his martial arts aptitude was only 34%, and yet, he still chose it, as the stigma about mages back then are fairly negative. In the present time, however, the roles are complete opposite, as mages are thought of very highly while martial artists are in decline. And so, he reflects on what his life would have been if he had chosen to become a mage instead. A raider's growth stops at 20 years old, so he decides to not wallow on it anymore, as he can't change the past. And like that, he decides to accept Wooman's offer, seeing as he has no other option. Wooman responded, saying he'll see him there at 8 a.m. tomorrow and reminded him to not be late. Jae-hyun asked why he's gonna be there, since he's usually busy with agency work. Wooman retorted, saying he has business there as well. The next day, the raiders are gathered at the entrance of the dungeon. Jae-hyun questioned why Wooman isn't there, seeing as it's already way past the time, and so, he thinks he didn't mean to come in the first place. This made him think why Wooman is in the Raider Association in the first place, seeing as he's a A-rank raider, he will be accepted in any guild he wishes, which a D-rank like him could only dream of. As he is then reminded of a person with a dark aura, calling him a useless bastard. When suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted as someone calls to him. His name is Myunho, Jae-hyun's friend. The two greeted each other, as Myunho joked around, saying kids these days don't know how cool the martial arts class really is, which didn't sit well with Jae-hyun, seeing as they're basically starving because of it. Despite this, Myunho urged him to do their best, and offered for them to go get drinks afterwards. Jae-hyun accepted, but he reasoned that he didn't have any money, so he wants Myunho to pay. Myunho didn't want to, as he already paid last time, but seeing Jae-hyun's expression, he decided to treat him. Then suddenly, the raider agent called to the raiders, telling them to gather as they'll be entering soon. Everyone is preparing, as Jae-hyun breathed deeply as he reminded himself about what to pay attention to. Myunho interrupted him, asking if what he's looking at is his girlfriend's picture, since he always looks at his phone before entering a dungeon. Jae-hyun says it's nothing, as he says goodbye to the picture of his mom. Inside the dungeon, the raiders were attacked by zombie-like creatures. The mages told the martial artists to just stay put and raise their shields, and to not move even if it means they'll die. And so, the mages chanted their magic, as they then hit the undead, burning them to crisps. Jae-hyun recognized them as being from the Meteor Guild, known for being new but also powerful. And like that, they progressed in the dungeon smoothly, as only the boss room is left. While resting, the two conversed, as Myungo asks him if he has any item drops. Jae-hyun was gonna check his inventory, but upon opening it, he was faced with a glitched screen, followed by a sudden headache. Taking another look, he saw a message saying the Acer system is down, and that his connection to it will be disconnected, temporarily. Before he could make sense of what's happening, a voice called out to him, saying to follow the light, as a warning from the system came, saying that an unknown existence has infiltrated and it will try to restore to safe mode, but it fails. He wonders about what the voice said, but upon taking in his surroundings, he saw the light the entity was referring to. He realized he's the only one who can hear and see it, so he decides to investigate. Upon following it, he inspected the system again, with it still not functioning. Jae-hyun concluded that the voice he heard must have been connected to why the Aesir system is down. The Aesir system, it is predicted to have come from the Asgardian gods, including Thor and Odin, and it is the last line of defense for humanity. 20 years ago, in 2011, a giant tree suddenly grew in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It sprouted one morning and then grew to cover the skies in only 9 days. Some took it as a sign of the end of the world, while some called it a blessing. However, its real origin comes from Norse mythology, the world tree, Yggdrasil. On the 9th day, when the tree fully grew, portals from other dimensions appeared. In them came out monsters, which terrorized humanity as half of the population lost their lives. When humanity fell in despair, he appeared. The first ever awakened, a human with divine power. Ever since then, the awakened are tasked with hunting monsters, with their strongest weapon being the Aesir system. And so Jaehyun's system is very unusual as it has never been once down before. Following the light, he arrived at a huge door. He smirked as he recognized this door. It's the dungeon's treasure gate. These gates have a low probability of appearing in high-level dungeons, as they contain special items and rare materials. Treasure gate items can go for hundreds of millions, and so, if he gets a A rank or higher equipment, he could sell it for huge amounts of money. Upon opening the door, what greeted him are a row of pillars, leading to a single item at the center. Jaehyun immediately made his way to it, and upon touching it, his system gets repaired, as it alerts him that he obtained a new equipment. Looking at it, the item seems to be some sort of eye, as he then inspects its details with the system. Its name is the Lost Eye of Odin, ranked Mythic. It's one of Odin's eyes, which he sacrificed at Mimir's well. The system showed its accompanied skill, Absolute Calculation, which can calculate the structure of magic and destroy it. After equipping it, the user will obtain Absolute Calculation, along with castless magic and a blank card that can copy an opponent's skill, without receiving any penalties. Jaehyun was ecstatic, as the highest ranking items in auctions are only S rank. A mythic item means that there's only one copy of it in the world, so, if he sold it, he could say goodbye to his normal life. Jaehyun got the idea to try it himself before selling it, as where else would you be able to try a mythic item, but before equipping, the system warned him that it will be bound once equipped. And so, he cancelled it, as he's already beyond 20, so he can't even raise his level with it, so he will just sell it. Like that, he decides to go back to his party. Myunho was covering for him, as the mages wondered where he had gone to, and at that moment, he arrived, as Myunho told him that the attack will start soon. The mage scolded him, saying to not act on his own, as Jaehyun apologizes. Thinking he was down, Myunho comforted him, but Jaehyun smiled brightly at him, as he says that drinks are on him tonight. Jaehyun decides to keep his findings a secret as they are still inside a dungeon, where laws do not exist, and if they discovered he has one of the strongest items with him, he's as good as dead. And so, he decides to lay low for now. When suddenly, the ceiling collapsed, as the raiders tries to avoid the falling debris. Jaehyun was confused about what's happening, as a purple mist suddenly filled the dungeon. He noticed that it's poison gas, so, he covered his nose and tries to get out. Myunho found him and urged for them to get out. He was gonna tell the others to also get out when suddenly, a sword pierced Myunho's chest. Jaehyun was stunned as his friend collapses on the ground, but, the voice in his head told him to run, and so, he did. While running, he realizes that this isn't the work of monsters but instead, murderers. He panicked as he thought of ways that he can survive this. He calmed himself down, as he was determined to survive this no matter what. When suddenly, orange electric chains chased him as he tries to avoid it. A person in a hoodie made his way to him, as Jaehyun recognizes his voice. It was Young Wooman, remarking that he told him that he'll come see him today. Jaehyun questions him if this was all his doing. Wooman replied, admitting it. He then asked for the reason, as he responded saying it's because a client told him to get rid of the Meteor Guild. He wondered if he could take him on, but concluded that it's impossible as Wooman is a A-rank raider, while he is just a measly D rank. And so, he made up a plan that although cowardly, he'll act as if nothing happened in the dungeon, which will hopefully let him go as he's not their target. Before he could finish, Wooman launched his chains, with him narrowly dodging it. He smirked as he then told him that their target isn't just the Meteor Guild, as he launched more chains at Jaehyun. He ran for his life, and at the same time, also narrowly dodging Wooman's attacks. He wondered why he's targeting him, seeing as he's just a D-rank raider, as he tries to recall who would possibly want him dead. And then, it hit him, the person who didn't want him alive, his father. Wooman laughed maniacally, stating that he really is quick to catch on. He asked another question, asking if his father requested something similar, in winter 5 years ago. Wooman answered his question, stating that he didn't think he would put it all together, which confirms Jaehyun's suspicion. He stood there, stunned, as Wooman toys with him. He had nothing to say, as he now knows what truly happened. When suddenly, his system opens, as the Eye of Odin activates. Wooman was gonna toy with him some more, when suddenly, a bright light came to his view, shocking him. He saw Jaehyun's magic power rising and getting stronger, so he decides to finish it quickly. All of his chains flew to Jaehyun, with him just standing there, seemingly taking it. But at that moment, his eyes glowed, as Wooman's chains disintegrate, shocking him. He can't sell the item anymore, but if it means killing Wooman right here, he'll gladly use it. He then uses the Eye's blank card as he copies Wooman's active skill, Blitz Chain. Wuman wondered how he can seemingly use his active skill, which took him years to master. He calmed himself, as he states that it won't be enough to take him on. And so, Jaehyun attacked him, as both their chains collide. However, despite Wuman's being the original, he was getting pushed back by his chains. He then concentrates his chains in his hands, as he launched it towards him. Jaehyun, however, activates absolute calculation, easily destroying the chains, as he then counterattacks. Wuman put up a shield, but Jaehyun uses absolute calculation again to also destroy it, and so, his attack hit him. Afterwards, he made his way towards him. Wuman was about to plead for his life, but he wasn't having it, so he ended him there. When suddenly, blood comes out of his mouth, as he collapsed, due to not having any mana nor stamina left, and overexerting his body's limits. He obtained a mythical item, and yet, here he was, at death's door. And like that, he closed his eyes. But then, suddenly, a system message appeared saying that a new system has been loaded and asks if he wants to proceed. If he proceeds, he can choose a time period he wishes to return to. He was hesitant, but it's his only option, so he proceeds. Upon accepting, the system changed to the Norner system. As then, beings of light appeared before him, seemingly the Valkyries, as they reached their hand out to him, with him reaching back. The new system then messaged, stating that he has now become a great enemy of the High Aesir. And he obtained 2 more passive skills, as it also alerted that half Aesir gods are watching him. Then suddenly, he woke up. He was confused about what happened, as he takes a look at his surroundings. He thinks he is dreaming, as he sees his previously deceased mom, and came to hug her. And we will have to end the recap here. Subscribe so as to not miss out on future recaps, or, you can click on the video on your screen to watch the previous recap.